Hello everyone, welcome to another session in the Extensions 101 webinar series. So this series was started in the year 2023 with the goal of equipping developers with the knowledge required to build effective extensions across Zoho products. So since its inception, we have conducted 17 sessions covering extension building concepts for products such as Zoho CRM, Zoho Desk, Zoho Projects and Zoho Books. So each session has focused on key technical features and the use cases relevant to the respective product. So far in this year's edition, we have held 5 sessions where we covered important components like connections, widgets, modal boxes and data storage for the product Zoho Projects and custom actions and webhooks for Zoho CRM. You can always refer to the resources section available in the Zoho community page to check out the YouTube recordings of the previous sessions on these features. So in today's session, we'll be moving on to another Zoho product, Zoho Books, and be exploring an important feature called custom actions and its significance while you are building an extension for Zoho Books. So with that, let's begin with the session for today. So we'll be starting off with a quick introduction and an overview on what the custom actions feature is about, and then we'll see when and how these custom actions can be used, followed by which we'll be seeing the prerequisites and the steps that are involved in creating a custom action, and finally we'll conclude with a use case demonstration where we actually build a Zoho Books extension using this custom action feature. So this is the agenda that we have planned for today's session. Let's quickly start with a quick introduction on what custom actions are. So the custom actions helps you to create personalized workflow actions that can be reused across different scenarios, but to get a personalized outcome out of every scenario. Let's say you have a common action, say sending out an email, but depending on where or why it is being triggered, you want the message to be different. So instead of hard coding everything again and again, you create one flexible and a customizable action, and that is what the custom actions does for you. So you can create a templated custom action which can be personalized and reused for different scenarios. In general, while you are building a Zoho Books extension, you have a component called workflow rules in the Zoho Books developer platform. So if you want to perform an action on the occurrence of a specific criteria, then this workflow rules component can be used. So here I have included a sample screenshot of how the workflow component would look in the Zoho Books developer platform. So here we can see we have defined a workflow rule where we have specified a condition and a criteria. So on the occurrence of this particular condition, an immediate action can be associated with it. So there are a set of default actions provided over here, and any one of these actions can be associated on the occurrence of this particular condition. This action can be performed. So let's see an example for this. Say when a customer made a payment, we need to send out an email that includes a personalized message. So in this case, as an extension developer, you can define a workflow where you can specify the condition and the criteria for successful payment, and the action triggered by these criteria will be sending out an email. But in this case, the content of the email should be personalized according to the criteria that you have defined. So here the content would be like acknowledging the customer for payment. Let's take another scenario. So if the customer's payment fails or doesn't go through, so you will want to send a different email. So in this case, you can create another workflow where you specify the condition and criteria for the failed payment, and the action that is going to be performed over here is again sending out an email, but the content of the email is going to be specific for this particular criteria. So here we can see that as an extension developer, you have to define multiple workflows where you are specifying some criteria and associating some action accordingly. But across these workflows, you can see that the action is common. That is, the action of sending out emails is common in both the workflows. The only thing that differs is the condition and the outcome that and the outcome that comes out of this condition, right? So what if this common action of sending out the email alone can be taken and that can be reused across multiple workflows? Well, that can be achieved using this custom action feature. So using the custom action feature, as a developer, you can just take out the common action, create it as a custom templated action and provide that action to the end user, who gets the benefit of creating the workflow criteria of their choice, associating and using this custom action to get personalized outcome. So that is what we have depicted over here. Using this custom action feature, as an extension developer, you will have to create a custom templated action. So whatever the common functionality is going to occur in your case, that can be defined using this custom action feature. So this extension, which holds the custom action feature, can then be bundled and given to the end user. So now the end users who are going to install the extension get the benefit of defining the workflow criteria of their choice. So they can define any number of workflows, but they can go ahead and reuse this custom action as part of their workflows. So in this way, the common action that you created as part of your extension is being reused across multiple workflows that are going to be created by the end user to get personalized outcomes. So I have again included a sample screenshot of workflow rules after installing a custom action. So here you can see that in the immediate actions, along with the default set of actions that we have seen in our earlier screenshot, now the custom action that we have created through the extension has been populated over here. So in this way, the end user can define any number of workflows with the criteria of their choice, associate this common templated action that you have created using this custom action feature to get personalized outcomes. So this was an overview of how beneficial the custom actions can be. Next, let me show you how this custom actions features work in Zoho Books. So as I mentioned, as an extension developer, you will just have to create a custom action to perform a common templated action. So this custom action that you are creating is going to be a combination of two things. One is the custom UI and the other one is custom script. So let me just get into the Sigma platform and show you all how this custom action component looks so that you can relate better to the concept. So for that, I am getting into my Sigma. So this is my Sigma platform where I already have an extension for Zoho Books. So let me enter into the particular extension. So here you can see, right, as part of this books extension, when I get into the build section, I have this custom actions component. So as a developer, if you want to create a common templated action as part of your extension and provide that to the end users so they can reuse it in their workflows, then you can use this custom action component to build your common templated actions. So I said that the custom action is going to be a combination of two things, that is a custom UI and a custom script, right? So you might wonder, why do you require this custom UI? Essentially, when the end user is going to define a workflow and then associate this custom action you create, you are creating some common action to take place, right? So the common action that needs to be performed will be handled using the custom script that you are going to create. But out of the workflow that the end user will create, they want a personalized outcome, right? So if you need to get personalized outcomes out of every workflow, the input must be personally provided by the end user. So to gather that personalized input from the end user, you will create a custom UI as part of your custom action. So through this UI only, the end user will provide their personalized input so that whenever the workflow condition they are creating is met, the custom script will be executed to get personalized outcomes. So this is the usage of custom UI as part of your custom action. So in our previous sessions, we discussed how to create a custom UI using the ZCLI. So after packing our files, we obtain a zip file that needs to be uploaded in order to create a widget in Zoho Books. So here we have the widget component. So when I get into the widget component and try creating a new widget, so you can see that after providing a name and a description, we are asked to upload a zip file over here. So this is where you can upload our custom UI zip file. So once uploaded, the custom UI component of your custom action will be created. And now, if you use this custom actions component, it will ask you to create a custom action. So here you'll have to provide a name for an action. Let's provide test as a name over here, followed by a description for that particular custom action. Then you need to choose the modules with which this custom action can be associated. So you can even select multiple modules over here. Again, as an extension developer, you should note that the end users can only use this custom action for the modules chosen over here. So you should be making sure that you are choosing all the modules that this custom action can be supported. Then, as I just mentioned, you can select a widget that we have already created using this widgets component. So this widget will render the custom UI of your custom action. After that, you can check this box to add any global fields to this custom action. And finally, you will see the deluge editor where you can create your custom script. So in the example that we have just visited, sending out an email is a common templated action, right? So that common templated action, that is the email sending out functionality, has to be handled via this custom script. So based on the personalized input that the end user provides through this custom UI, this custom script will be executed to get personalized outcomes. So this is how the custom action is a combination of a custom UI and the custom script. As a developer, you will create this custom action component and publish it as an extension. Then the end users can publish this install this extension in their Zoho Books account to start using this custom action feature. So as I mentioned, we have covered the developer part of creating a custom action. Now let's see what the end user should do after installing the custom action extension in their Zoho Books account. So this is where the real power of personalization comes into play, as the end user customizes their experience according to their specific needs. So once the extension is installed, the end users can configure it with personalized actions like specific tasks or behaviors that suit their unique scenarios. So once these actions are defined, the next step is to implement them using workflows. So the users need to create a workflow, establish the conditions and the criteria for each step of this workflow, and then associate the appropriate custom action to their workflow logic. So let's get into Zoho Books now and see how the extension works for end users. So I'll just get into Zoho Books now. So once we log in, this is going to be the dashboard for our Zoho Books account. So as part of this implementation, the user has to configure the workflows, right? So for that, we need to get into the settings option, and under automation, you could see the automation steps that the user can do in their Zoho Books account. So let's say that the end user has already installed the extension which holds your custom action. So then they can go ahead, create workflow actions for their choice. So if they go into the workflow actions, so along with the default set of actions that were available, they will have this custom action option that you created through the extension will be available. So this custom action option can be utilized by the end user to define their custom actions. So let's say if I'm clicking on the custom action, and they will be asking you to create an action. So this is where the custom UI that you create as part of your extension will be displayed to the end user. So they can go ahead and provide the personalized inputs according to their needs, and once they save the details, a custom action will be created and ready to be associated with the workflow. So in this way, the users can create multiple custom actions based on their different scenarios. So once the custom action is created, the next step is to create a workflow rules of their choice. So for that, if they go to the workflow rules, so let's just take this as a workflow. They can create a workflow, a condition can be specified, and now if they check the immediate actions option, they can see all the workflows that they have, workflow actions that they have created along with the default set of actions. So based on the criteria, whenever this workflow action condition is met, the custom script that you have created as part of your custom action will be triggered, and the end users will get personalized outcomes out of it based on this immediate actions and the criteria set over here. So in this way, the end user can go ahead and define any number of workflows, associate the desired custom action, and whenever that specific workflow condition is met, that script will be triggered to deliver the personalized outcomes. So this is an overview of a custom action and how they can be implemented within the Zoho Books by an end user. So I have just have the steps that we have discussed consolidated as a part of this slide. Ideally, the steps to create a custom action, as we saw now, as an extension developer, you create a custom action having a combination of a custom UI to get the personalized input from the end user and a custom script to get the which will help you perform the logical functionality to get a personalized outcome. So once this feature is handled as an extension, that will be provided to the end user. So the end user can install the extension, provide their personalized inputs in the custom UI, and save them as a workflow action. Then they can define workflows, specify the condition and the criteria, and associate this templated custom action as a workflow action. So whenever the workflow condition defined by the end user is met, the custom script will be triggered to get a personalized outcome for that workflow. So now that we have got a fair idea on custom actions and how they can be beneficial by associating with workflows, let us see the actual steps of how a developer can build a custom action as a Zoho Books extension, and how the end users can configure the custom actions and associate with workflows with a real-time use case demonstration. So to begin with, let's first discuss the prerequisites for building a custom action. So as a developer, to build a custom action in Zoho Books, you should have a Zoho developer account in any of the data centers available. Only then you will be able to access Sigma, which is the extension development platform for any of the Zoho products. Then, if you are accessing Sigma for the first time, you should create a workspace to start building your extensions. After that, I have mentioned that the custom UI will have to be created as a widget, right? So to create a widget, you need to have the ZCLI setup ready in your system. So we have briefly covered all these prerequisites in our previous sessions. So if you are new to this process, we suggest referring to those videos to equip yourself for preparing an extension. So with that prerequisites covered, we'll next see how a widget should be configured for custom UI and the mandatory parameters that need to be added to the widget code. So in any widget that you create as part of your custom actions, there are two main files. One is the plugin manifest.json and the other one is widget.html file. So let's see the mandatory fields and the parameters that needs to be added in each file and why they should be added to those files. So in the plugin manifest.json file, you should ensure that the file location is explicitly set to custom action.widget before you upload your zip file. So this specific file location tells the system exactly where to find your widget logic when the custom action is executed. And in the widget.html file, there are two key fields you must include. First, the name, and the next is the entity type. So the name is simply the display name of your custom action, and this name is going to appear in your system. The second is entity type. This specifies which module or entity, such like invoices or contacts, your widget will work with. So without these two fields, your widget won't register or trigger properly. Then, before saving your custom action, Zoho Book triggers an event API called onCustomAction presave. So this is where you define your required fields plus any other fields that you need for your implementation. So this API will act as a checkpoint for validation, which makes sure everything is in place before your widget is getting saved and associated. So once the validation is done, the SDK method, which is zapps.set custom action, this SDK method will be called to gather all the information provided in the UI and provide it to the custom script which you will be creating as part of your custom action. So these are the mandatory fields and methods that a developer should include while building a custom action for Zoho Books. So with these prerequisites and the mandatory fields defined, let us get into a real-time use case where we can see how this custom action plays a beneficial role. So let's say our use case for today is like we are going to create a custom action for Zoho Books, and the case is like for every invoice that is available in the Zoho Books, a salesperson will be associated. So whenever the status of the invoice gets changed, like it is the status gets changed to paid or it is changed to overdue, based on the condition or the status, an email has to be triggered to the salesperson to take respective action. So for example, let's say the invoice status is changed to overdue. In that case, an email has to be triggered automatically to the salesperson to take the necessary action to collect the payments. And in the same way, if the payment is made or made on time, then we can send a congratulations email to the salesperson for collecting the payment on time. So this is going to be our use case where whenever the status of an invoice in Zoho Books gets changed, a workflow will be set up, and based on the status that is getting changed, a customized email will be sent to the salesperson. So this is going to be our use case today. And before we get into the actual implementation, I'll just show you the sample screenshots of how this extension has been implemented. But before that, I'll just go through the steps that are required for implementing our use case. So as we discussed earlier, as a developer, the developer should create a custom UI, which is going to be the widget, and the custom script to handle the logic of this particular extension. So in this case, in our custom UI, we are going to get the email subject and message along with the name and entity, which are the mandatory fields for any widget. And in the custom script, we will handle the logic to send out emails to the salesperson based on the invoice due date and its status. So once it is, this custom action is created and provided to the end user as an extension, what the end user has to do is like they should configure the custom action with the email content that needs to be sent to the salesperson. And then once the custom actions are created, they have to create, define a criteria, create a workflow, define criteria for that workflow and associate the appropriate custom action to that condition. So in the same workflow, they can have multiple conditions and criteria, and for each criteria, they can associate the appropriate custom action. So this is the extension that we have created for our use case. As you see over here, the salespeople is going to be the custom action that we have created as part of the extension. After installing the extension, you could see that along with the default workflow actions, this salespeople custom action has been added as a workflow actions. So using this workflow, we have created two different custom actions. One is to be triggered when the payment is on overdue, and the other is to be triggered when the payment is successful. So once the custom actions are created, you can see that we have created a workflow where we have defined two different criteria. So one is the invoice state is overdue and the other one is paid, and based on this criteria, we have associated the respective custom action to be triggered on the when this condition satisfies. So I'll show you the sample output that the end user will get out of this extension. So if you could see, whenever an invoice is falls under the overdue state, an email will be triggered to the salesperson from the Zoho Books stating that the custom payment is pending and the necessary action has to be taken. So this is how we have created an extension for our use case and implemented it. Now let's get into the actual steps of creating our extension. So for that, I'll get into the Sigma platform, and I have already created an extension to implement our use case. So this is the extension. I'm just getting into that. So as mentioned, when we get into the build section, as a developer, the first component that we should be looking at is the widgets, right? So in widgets, I have already created a widget which is going to handle our custom UI for our custom action. Okay, so you can see that I have already created the widget and I have associated it as part of this extension. So let me just open my widget file and show you how the implementation has been handled over there. So for that, I am just getting into the widget file. Within this project folder, we'll be having an app folder, and within that, we'll be having the widget.html file. So if I open that file, so you can see that first I have defined the default files, which is the name and entity type. So along with this, I have provided two different fields. One is to get the subject of the email and the other one is to get the message of the email body. So with these fields, once these fields are provided by the end user, I have used the on custom action pre-save event API, which will validate the inputs provided by the end user, and then it will be passed on to the custom script. And along with that, as I mentioned, I have used this zapps.set custom action method, which will collect all these information and provide it to the custom script that we will be creating as part of our custom action. So this is how I have created my widget.html file. And along with this, I mentioned we should be defining the location in our plugin.manifest, right? So I'll just open my plugin.manifest file. So here you can see that I have defined the location of this particular widget as custom action.widget. So in this way, as a developer, you can configure your widget and plugin manifest file for your custom UI. So once it is done, you can use the validate method in your ZCLI. So validate all your files, and once validated, you can use the zpack command, which will return us a zip file. So as you can see, within this dist folder, we have been provided with a zip file. So this zip file has been added as part of this widget that I have created for our extension. So with this step, the first part, which is the creating a custom UI, has been implemented. The next step is to create the custom script, right? So for that, we saw that under automation, we will be having a custom actions component, and if we get into that, we can go ahead and create our custom actions. So again, I have created our custom script. I'll just get into that. So as you can see over here, I have provided a name, defined the modules as invoice, since we will be handling only the invoices in this custom action. Associated the widget that I created in the name of salespeople, and then will be provided with the deluge script editor. So in this editor, by default, you will get all the organization details, user information, entity details, and the config details as parameters. So as a developer, it will be easy for you to fetch information from these parameters and reuse it in your custom script. So based on that, I have fetched the API root endpoint and the organization ID from the organization parameter, and in the same way, I have fetched the invoice ID and the salesperson who is associated with that particular invoice. The salesperson's ID is also being fetched from the entity details. After that, the user will be providing some input in the custom UI, right? So all those information apart from the default fields, which is name and entity, whatever the information that the user provides, it will be available in this config parameter. So from that config parameter, as I have defined, I have obtained the subject and the message of the email that is going to be sent as part of the custom action. So with this, I have all the information available for my implementation. So after that, I have used an invoke URL to get the email ID of the salesperson associated with this invoice ID. So I just have the salesperson ID over here, but in order to trigger emails, I need the email, right? So for that, I have used an invoke URL along with a connection for Zoho Books. And using this particular invoke URL, I'll be getting the email ID of all the salespersons available within this particular organization. So based on the invoice ID, I have filtered the respective salesperson's email and save it as a parameter over here. So with this, the email ID is also obtained, which is required for our implementation. Finally, I'll be using the send mail method to trigger emails to the salesperson whenever the condition is met. So this is going to be my custom script as part of my custom action. So once I save this, now the next step is to publish this extension, right? So I have already published this extension and installed it in my Zoho Books. So I'll just get into my Zoho Books now. So with this, the developers part is completed. That is creating a custom UI and the custom action, custom script required for the custom action. Now that it has been provided as an extension and it is installed in my Zoho Books account, the first step is to create the custom actions, right? So for that, we saw it has to be done within the workflow actions. So I am getting into the workflow actions now. And as you can see, along with the default actions, the salespeople custom action that I have created as part of my extension is added over here. So when I get into this particular workflow actions, you can see that the end user can create any number of custom actions, defining their providing their personalized inputs based on their conditions. So for our implementation, I have created two different custom actions. One is to be triggered when the invoice payment is successful, and one has to be triggered when the invoice is falls under overdue. Okay, so with this I have created two different custom actions, and it has to be associated to the workflow, right? So for that I am getting into workflow rules. So now you can see that I have created a workflow where I have defined two different criteria. So one is the overdue and the next one is the paid one. So as I already mentioned, I have added the custom actions to the respective criteria, and whenever any one of these criteria matches in my Zoho Books, an email will be triggered to the salesperson with the respective personalized action. So I'll just show you how this extension works. So for that, I'm getting into the invoice module of Zoho Books. So here I have two different invoices which with the status over here. If I get into a invoice and I change the status to overdue, so I'm changing the date as previous date. So here now you can see that the status of the invoice is changed to overdue. So now this extension has to trigger an email to the salesperson with the respective personalized action. So let me go ahead and check if I receive this email. Here you can see that an email has been triggered from Zoho Books stating that the customer payment is pending, and the salesperson has to make the respective action. So this is how you can create a custom action where the end users can create any number of custom actions based on their needs, and it can be associated with the workflow. So within a workflow, they can have multiple custom actions, and based on the condition and the criteria, the custom actions can be triggered to get a personalized outcome. So finally, we'll look into another example where these custom actions can be helpful. So in this scenario, let's say whenever a customer is placing an order in Zoho Books, you want SMSs to be sent to that particular customer in each and every stage. So for example, whenever an order is placed, you want an SMS to be sent confirming the order. So this is one action, and along with that, you need to send another SMS to track the product that they have added. So this is going to be another custom action. And finally, you will send another different SMS for asking for your feedback on your services. So here we can trigger three different actions with three different outcomes, but you can set only one workflow and associate three different custom actions to it, so that based on the criteria, the personalized outcome can be achieved out of this custom actions. Where as a developer, you just create a template once, and the end users can do the rest, that is from defining workflows, adding their own criteria, and getting exactly the outcome that they want.